What's up, everyone? Jacob Roach back here from Mixing with Metal. Welcome to the very first video in how to mix metal drums. I got a bunch of comments that I talked too long in the intro, so I'm going to do talking at the end. So let's jump right in. This video, we're going to talk about bus processing and how I go about that. Now, I've already balanced all these drums volume-wise, and I've laid samples and stuff like that. General drum editing and kind of just clean up and stuff like that so that mixing's easier. I'm working on a full course right now where I'll dive more into that stuff, but we'll get into that later. Anyway, let's jump into these. Let's listen to these raw. So they sound pretty good. These are what we have rocking as far as samples. Everything's real besides the kick. The kick was not actually, it was recorded with the kick pad. So we have a full sample on the kick, and then we have a room sample for the snare, or this is the room sample for the snare, and then a close mic sample, but it sounds pretty natural, pretty much the drum kit. If I straight into the computer, this is how it sounded, just so you guys have a reference point. So just adding a little bit more to it. So what I go for first is working on my drum bus and then my drum crush, which is a parallel drum compression. And let's just step through my drum bus chain here. So the first thing I have going on is SSL, the SSL bus compressor. And I'm sure you guys know that this is great on drums. How I have this set up is a super slow attack, fast release, slow attack so that I let the transient through, fast release so that it increases the dynamic range of the drums, makes them sound more punchy. 4-to-1 ratio. I think it was just a fault. I probably just didn't change it. I typically keep it either 4-to-1 or 2-to-1. And then I'm looking to stay below this 4 dB mark. I don't really care where it's at. As long as it's sitting below there, I'm good. But I dial that into taste. So let me show you what that's doing. Yeah, it is adding a little bit of volume there, but if you can hear, the drums sound more exciting, they sound more open. It's a subtle difference, but they just sound more metal, right? They sound like more of a rock or a metal track. Like they sound like something that's exciting. We want our drums to sound super exciting. We want it to sound like the drummer's just completely beating the crap out of their drums. And that's what this little bit of compression does. The drum parallel compression will help with that later, but this is just a little bit to open it up a little bit before we do any more processing. Next is one of my favorite EQs on drums, and I'm not alone. There's a ton of engineers who use the API 550A on drums, and with good reason. It just sounds great. What I have going on here is I'm boosting some top end around 10K, 2 dB of top end, and then I'm scooping out some mids around 400. Okay? And, I mean, just simple stuff you do with drums. The reason I'm doing this now is because... The reason I'm doing this now is because I want to take a little bit of that mid-range flubbiness out, so I'm not dipping so much of it out on the tracks. For workflow, I'm not sure if it helps later on in the actual process, if it sounds better, but it's just really for workflow purposes. So I'm just brightening them up, turning down that mid-range a little bit. So here's what that sounds like. And actually, now that I listened through, I want to turn down that mid-range dip a little bit. We were really losing the snare in there. But yeah, you can hear how that's, again, making the drums a little bit more exciting, adding a little bit more to it. This is all overall. We're doing broad strokes with this. That's what kind of what the approach top-down mixing, that's what this approach is about, is making these broad strokes and just trying to make an overall instrument, in this case the drum kit, sound better. We have, certain elements in a mix, and that's what we're trying to do here, is bring a little bit more life to it before we dive in and really start mixing the individual tracks. Next, we have VMR. This is the Neve preamp emulation. I'm not doing any EQ. The only thing I'm doing, I don't think I am. Yeah, I'm not doing any EQ. I'm just driving this line input. Adds a little bit of saturation to it. It's subtle, but I'll show you what it's doing. You really can hear it on headphones. I'm on headphones right now. And a little bit on monitors if you have a really good ear and you have a nice treated room and stuff. But really on headphones, you can hear it, is that the drums just don't sound as in the middle anymore. There's like this, they kind of sound up the middle. And then once you flip this on, they kind of move to the sides a little bit. And that's really good. It doesn't sound so central focused, especially when we're doing all sorts of weird frequencies and trying to boost stuff to cut through guitars and all that. If we can kind of push that off to the side, it doesn't sound as harsh in the center. It makes the drum sound bigger. So this is a subtle thing, but it really helps, especially if you're listening in headphones. I'm sure you'll hear it. And then I have a high pass at what is it, 35 hertz. Next, more saturation, Slate VTM. Again, another subtle thing, just adding subtle tape saturation. I think this is just the default setting. I could be wrong, but I think this is just default. I don't think I actually changed anything. I think that's just on my template. But I'm not even using the 2-track. I'm just using the 16-track tape. So let me show you what that's doing. Man, I love this plugin. It's like polish, right? So it sounds like the drums just have some polish now. I don't know how else to explain it. They just sound polished, like they're up front and they just have this thing to them now. And it sounds good. I mean, I guess I could try and break down the frequencies that it's doing, but I don't really care. They just have this finishing thing that just sounds right. So that's that. So I'll bypass all of these and bring them all back in just to show you how far this top-down processing has taken us. Little things, too. Little things. A little bit of EQ, a little bit of compression, and then some saturation. That's all they're doing there. And the drums just sound bigger, they sound more exciting, all that kind of stuff. And that's just what I'm thinking about. I'm thinking about the drum kit as a single instrument when I'm doing top-down processing. And this is the first step in making your drums sound great, because you have to look at your drums like this as a single unified instrument, and then you can start going in and tweaking small things. Now that we have this broad picture of how the drums are sounding, they're kind of telling us how they want them to sound. I don't know if that sounds cheesy, but what I mean is that if we do this now, we have the natural sound of the drums. So now we have a roadmap on what we need to do. So now that we have a closer image to what our finished product is, we can go, okay, maybe that kick needs a little bit more top end, or maybe it's getting kind of flubby in the low mids, right? And we can just kind of dictate that stuff now that we have a better picture of how the drums sound. Only other thing here is Verb Throw, which is a poorly labeled bus, as most of my buses are. I have Quantum Leap spaces, but I don't have, I can't load the impulse response because I canceled my subscription. If you watch my last video, you'll know that. So that's doing nothing. I don't know. Let's just do that. This is a little bonus. Let's load up a reverb really quick, because I should have a reverb on there. Oh God, I just trashed my Pro Tools preferences before I record this video. And so everything's not the way I want it to be. Where do I want? Verb Suite Classics. That's what I want. All right, everyone. Well, Pro Tools crashed, unsurprisingly, and I'm going to move on. I'll show you Reverb. I was thinking about it in the break, and I'll show you Reverb in a later video. Anyway, so just know this bus is literally doing nothing right now because the plugin I have on it is inactive. It's sending information, but it's not doing anything. Anyway, let's move on to our parallel drum compression. So again, this is what we have now. Ooh. Oh, that's why. Sorry, I had to get this all set up, and that's what a kick pad sounds like, in case you're curious. It just sounds like this. Sounds ridiculous. All right, there we go. So that's where we're at. And now we're going to move on to our parallel drum compression. So basically what I have is I have a separate bus here, and then I have sends going to all of that. What I have being sent is a little bit of everything. I don't send a lot, just because I want enough headroom in there. This is going to be very loud. This is how my template's set up. I think I just copied these over. Yeah, so I just send a little bit of each, a little bit less kick, stuff like that, so that it just hits the compression in certain ways. So a little bit of kick, sending both to toms, sending the snare mics, not the snare room, just the actual mics, sending a lot of those because I want those to really pop. Sending the rooms, a little bit of those, and then sending a little bit of the overheads. So I mess with those sends to kind of balance it and give the compression what I want. I want a lot of snare, a lot of toms, not as much kick because it's really bassy, really, a lot of low end, and then a little bit less on the cymbals too, so it doesn't get too washy. All right, and then we have this setup. It sounds like this. I'm going to boost this up so you guys can hear it. So you can hear lots and lots of snare in there, and then everything else is pretty turned down. The toms are loud too. If I can go to a section with toms. So there we go. All I have here is VMR. And on VMR, I have this. And this is my drum crush preset that I use all the time. And I'll show you what it sounds like, and then I'll dive into it. So without it. Lots of volume boost on that. Sorry, headphone users. So yeah, that's what it's doing. Sounds kind of crappy on its own, but let me walk you through this. So first, obviously, slamming it with compression. Now, I use this sometimes. Actually, I don't even think this is my drum crush preset. Yeah, this is my drum crush preset, but I guess I changed it. Anyway, can I revert back? No, it's fine. This is what I typically use, which... That's what I typically use, and then I guess I was saturating it afterwards. So anyway, 1176, blackface 1176, and I think I changed it after this mix, which is why it was different. But slamming it, just slamming it really hard, super fast attack, super fast release, just backing off a little bit, just a little bit on that attack to just let a little bit of transient through, but fastest released, 12-to-1 ratio, and just slamming it. Let's see how many dB we're getting. So around 7 dB on the hardest hits of gain reduction. Now, it depends on what 1176 you're using, because like the Waves one is a little bit different than this one. Just go to where it sounds aggressive like that. In this case, it happens to be 7 dB. And then just to make it sound more aggressive, using some preamp drive. And I'm really driving it. I'm driving it so you can actually hear the saturation. So I'll do that real time now. All right, great. And now you can hear why I turned down everything, because that snare sticks out so much when it's on its own, but when it's compressed, it all gets smushed down together. And if it was all the same level, that snare would get completely lost. And so that's why I send so much snare to it. All right, and then I just blend this into the typical drum sound. So what I'll do is I'll turn this down all the way, unmute my drum bus, and then blend. And honestly, it's just a little bit more energy in it. That's all it is. So yeah, I hope this is helpful to you guys. Again, this is just part one. We're gonna go into all of these mics, going of the overheads, the rooms, the snare, the toms, and then the kick drum, and then just showing how to implement that the mix. This is just part one of the series. Now, again, I said I was gonna talk a little bit at the end of the video. The channel has grown a lot, and I'm really surprised. Almost up to 1,000 subscribers now, which is amazing. And thank you guys so much for watching the videos, sending me really nice comments. I haven't received a lot of negative feedback at all, which is great. It makes me really excited. So thank you guys for supporting and watching and all this stuff. If you'd like me to do more of these extended walkthrough series, let me know in the comments below. If there's anything you guys want to see, please let me know, and send me a message or comment or whatever. Anyway, any means to get a hold of me. I check all my stuff all the time. Also, I want to let you guys know I've received some personal messages about mixing bands tracks. I know a lot of you guys who watch these videos are in bands as well, and maybe you're just getting started, or maybe you're just kind of a hobbyist right now and you're just trying to learn more and you're looking to get your stuff mixed. I am taking mix submissions right now, so there's a Google form in the link below. Fill that out if you want to get a quote, and I'll be sure to get in touch with you to see what we can work out. Anyway, stay tuned for part 2. I don't know how long it's going to be, probably 5 or 6 parts, I'm sure. And yeah, thanks for tuning in, guys. I'll see you next time.